Welcome to What You Should Know About Carbs. So in this video, we're going to talk about carb facts that you should know, common carb myths that are effing up your weight loss, if that happens to be a goal of yours, and also might be messing up your workout, frankly. Some sources of healthy carbs, how to know how many carbs you need, as well as how to portion your carbs at meals. So let's dive in. All right, basic facts. First thing is, they are one of the three macronutrients. Your macronutrients are basically those building blocks of food that keep you alive and upright and functioning and thinking and moving in the world. Your other two are going to be fat and protein. Now, you may have heard that you can live without carbs. This is technically true, but I have to tell you, you're probably going to feel pretty gross and bad, and your workouts are going to suck if you do that. So I highly recommend eating the carbs. One of the reasons why, actually, is carbs are your body's preferred source of energy for thinking in daily activities. So they're an easy source of energy, and that does not make it bad. That makes it efficient, and that can actually support you in a lot of ways. Have you ever noticed that you restricted carbs, you didn't eat enough, and you felt kind of sluggish or dizzy or maybe a little bit foggy, or your workout felt really awful, particularly cardio? Sometimes the issue with that is that we have not had enough carbs. So something to keep in mind. Carbs also provide essential vitamins and minerals. So restricting them means that you're not getting what you need from food. So yet another reason to eat them. And finally, they contain fiber, which is important for digestion. It helps you stay full. It can support you in weight loss. It can also support healthy body composition. So all really good reasons why we should eat the carbs. All right, let's get into the carb myths. These are the ones I hear all the time that I get questions about from my community as well as from my clients. So what you need to know is carbs alone are not going to cause weight gain. You have to be in a caloric surplus or eat more calories than your body burns to really end up gaining weight. It's not carbs. The same thing right now, one of the greatest hits and myths on the internet is that insulin spikes are directly causing weight gain. Not true. If you don't believe me, here's a couple studies. Yes, I've linked if you want to read them. There's more. This is just a couple examples. So they have done studies where they held the number of calories and protein the same. So they didn't change those two things. And they had people eat that number of calories in a surplus, where they did a high carb, low fat diet and a high fat, low carb diet. The end result was that people gained the same amount of weight. And actually, in some cases, if they went higher fat, they actually gained a little bit more fat mass in some of those studies. Conversely, the same thing happened when they put people in a caloric deficit. If they left protein alone and they reduced someone's calories and they tried low carb, high fat and high fat and high carb, low fat, then same thing. People lost the same amount of weight, which is to say that you have all of these options, but carbs are not going to cause weight gain. All right, the TLDR. A caloric deficit is what is going to cause weight loss, and a caloric surplus is what is going to cause weight gain. Your quality of food does matter. Don't think that I'm saying that it doesn't, but carbs alone are not going to cause weight gain. And the real takeaway from all of this research around macronutrients and weight, if that's something that you're concerned about or interested in, is that a higher protein diet, and I'm going to link at the end of this video to a video that talks more about this, is going to generally promote better weight maintenance and weight loss if that is a goal of yours. It also is going to support you in your workouts. So I would focus more on your protein intake than worrying about cutting carbs. How many carbs do you need? So the RDA is 130 grams or more per day. I would not recommend eating less. And if you are active, if you do cardio, if you strength train, you're probably going to want more. You do not need to track every single freaking gram of carbs. If you include a starchy carb and a fibrous carb at each meal, you're probably going to meet your needs. And don't worry, I'm going to talk about what that means in just a moment. All right, some sources of those starchy carbs. So this is going to be your oats, your potatoes, your rice, your quinoa, your lentils, your beans, your squash, your corn, peas, whole grain bread, pasta, stuff that we tend to actually really like. So these are not bad foods. They're a great source of energy. They have micronutrients. They have fiber. If you're something like you're celiac, maybe you can't do gluten, that's fine, but you don't need to restrict carbs because they're bad for you. That's the takeaway that I want you to get here. And then meanwhile, we've got fibrous carbs. It's just any fruit and vegetable. Do not overthink this, my friend. That's it. All right, so let's talk about how to fit carbs into your day. Like I said, it's not about restricting carbs, but I like to say that carbs need a friend. So we do best when we have a balanced meal. This is going to create balanced blood sugar. This is going to help us get all of the micronutrients that we need. And it's going to help us stay full and regulated for longer. A balanced meal just means you have a protein, a starchy carb, a fibrous carb, remember that's a fruit or a vegetable, and a fat. A balanced snack, you don't need all 3 macronutrients. It might be a protein and a fat, or a protein and a carb, or a fat and a carb. The point here is just preferably we don't eat carbs alone. Nothing bad is going to happen to you, but you're going to feel a little bit more regulated if you eat carbs with another macronutrient. So let's talk about the serving size. This is going to depend on the individual and your goals, and how much you're eating and your physical activity. So for most people, somewhere between a serving size for starchy carbs, about 1 to 2 cupped size handfuls, which is roughly half a cup, is going to be what you're going to want at each meal. So if you hold up your hand and you've got a little open cup here, that's about the number of carbs. 1 to 2 of those is going to be good. As far as fibrous carbs go, it would be a fist. So anywhere from 1 to 2 of these, that's going to be about a cup of vegetables. You will also want to have roughly at each meal. And yes, you can do fruits instead of vegetables. You don't need to overthink this. As I said, portions are going to vary depending on your level of activity, your preference, and how you feel. Some people feel better when they do higher carb, lower fat. Other people feel better on higher protein, higher fat, lower carb. Experiment and then go with what works for you. There's not a rule here. All right, carbs and weight loss. So these are not rules. I want to be really clear. You do not need to cut all your carbs to lose weight. In fact, I don't recommend it. It messes up your relationship with food. And like I said, you'll have no energy and you'll be resentful because you can't eat food that you like usually. So basically, if you're going to look at this through the lens of weight loss, when creating caloric deficit, you might find it helpful to reduce from starchy carbs and fat. I don't recommend reducing your protein because, and again, you can check out that other video that I'm going to link at the end of this one. Protein is going to be what is going to help you stay full, buffer against losing muscle when you're in a deficit, all of those kinds of things. So I would reduce from maybe a little bit less starchy carb at 1 or 2 meals and or fat. And then meanwhile, if your meals start to look sad and small, you might find that you want to increase your vegetable consumption, maybe your fruit consumption, because that's going to help promote fullness. Those foods are usually going to be a little bit more nutrient dense and fewer calories for a larger volume. So sometimes that can help us feel like we're not quite as miserable, frankly, in terms of the amount of food that we're eating. And again, I just want to reiterate, this does not mean that you need to cut carbs. You shouldn't cut carbs. Carbs belong in a healthy diet, especially if you are active. All right, that is it, my friend. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more resources, check out my video on protein and fat loss. I have linked it here. If you want more weight loss resources in particular, I do have a masterclass called Weight Loss Made Simple with a workbook. It's extremely robust. So if you want all the information around evidence-based weight loss without a lot of restrictive dieting, I would definitely check that out. I have linked in the description a 50% off coupon for you. And then if you are new here, hi, I hope you liked the video. Please click like, that helps increase engagement. Comment and let me know if you've got any questions or any other topics you want me to cover. And then of course, subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video. Thanks for being here.